So the NBA draft is tonight. The draft lottery was a little over a month ago, and the Dallas Mavericks pulled off the improbable and landed the first overall pick for the first time in their NBA history. And naturally, this brought out, the conspiracy theorists. And look, while we don't think the lottery was rigged, it definitely made us wonder if this is the right way to do the whole thing.
Yeah, the Mavericks did not deserve the first overall pick. The Spurs honestly didn't need the second pick, and Philly also didn't deserve the third pick.
Before we start talking about the draft lottery, if you haven't already, make sure you give this video a like, give us a subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss out on one of our videos. So like we said in the intro, despite how it looks and despite all the jokes we made on Twitter, neither of us think the draft lottery was rigged to land the Mavericks Cooper Flagg. Like, I'll admit, like I said in the intro, if you're an NBA conspiracy theorist, the draft lottery was a banner day for you. It seems real convenient that the Mavericks got the first pick after trading Luka to the Lakers, but like, consider all the people that would need to be in on this. Like, NBA governors, owners, GMs, the accounting firm that runs the lottery. What's more likely? All those people are in cahoots and there's one massive conspiracy, or the Mavericks just got kind of lucky?
I think what's more likely is Adam Silver, he rigged that machine himself, set up some sort of AI or magnets, and him got in there like under night and made it happen.
Of course, absolutely. He was hiding under the table, right?
Yes.
With like a magnet, just guiding the ping pong balls.
Yeah, like
of
that
course.
one chess thing like in the 1700s.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is like people who say the moon landing was fake. It's like, do you know how many people you'd have to get on the same page? How many documents you'd have to forge? How much evidence you'd have to forge? And again, like, the Mavericks had a low chance to win the lottery, yeah, but they still had a 1.8 chance, not a 0.018 chance. Like, if you want an example, if you ever played Origins on Black Ops 3 and gotten the Ray Gun Mark II your first try out of the box, the odds of that are 2.9%. So if that happens to you, which it's happened to me plenty of times, maybe,
I know.
I mean, yeah, you've been there. So if that happens, is the game rigged for you, or did you just get lucky?
I mean, with your polls out of the box, I might actually say it is rigged from what I've seen.
I do get good box plays. I really do. So yeah, like, it's fun to make jokes, but no, the lottery wasn't rigged. And before we complain, look, I want to say we're happy for Mavericks fans. Obviously, as Blazer fans, we're salty we didn't move up. Apparently, we were one ping pong ball off the #1 pick, just like with Wemby. So we're salty. We'll own up to that.
Yeah, and what makes it even worse is we got down to the final ping pong ball. I think Zach Lowe told this story on his podcast, like he had the info on it. Blazers representative right next to the Mavericks one because they were like the order in the lottery, and the Mavericks needed to be a 7. I think the Blazers was it a 5? It was a 6.
I think it was a 6.
Yeah, it was a 6. And the Mavericks representative, honestly, this was cold as fuck that he did this, but I'm still salty as hell and pissed. He said directly to the Blazers representative, it's gonna be a 7.
Nah, that guy.
And it was a 7. Just
that guy.
Oh my God. Whatever. I'm already just black-pilled, depressed about the NBA with the Blazers at least, so not even feeling it. Just kind of expected that story, to be honest.
Yeah, but back to the Mavericks, like they went through probably the most depressing season I've ever seen a fan base go through. Like, the Luka trade, the AD injury, the Kyrie injury, missing the playoffs entirely a year removed from making the NBA Finals. And I am happy for them that they've got now some hope for next year, and maybe they got a star that can carry them for the next decade. Unless Nico trades him too, which it's not out of the realm of possibility.
Right.
And look, Flagg should be a great fit for the Mavericks. Once Kyrie gets back, you got him at the 1, Flagg's your wing scorer, and then of course you got AD anchoring the middle. Also, PJ Washington's a little expendable now, so maybe you move him, maybe for a playmaker to hold down Kyrie's role until he gets back from injury. So I really like it for the Mavericks. It's a really great fit for them. However, if you're not a Mavericks, Spurs, or 76ers fan, this year's draft lottery was a little frustrating.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously frustrating every time you don't move up, because going into the lottery, you're thinking, oh yeah, we're gonna get the top
This
pick.
is our year.
Yeah, we're getting Flagg, we're getting Wemby, and like usually it doesn't happen for most teams, but this year especially, like looking at the teams that got these top picks, it is super frustrating. Like, it got down to the final 4. It was the Hornets, it was the Mavericks, it was the 76ers, and it was the Spurs. And now the Hornets deserve to be there. I don't think anyone's gonna debate that whatsoever. Out of any team in NBA history, they most deserve to get Cooper Flagg. Then they got the 4th pick. So
yeah, exactly.
I mean, I'm already pissed by the teams left. I was especially pissed by that. But looking at each of these teams, Dallas, they just made the finals last season. They were one game away from making the playoffs this season, make the most boneheaded trade in NBA history, and without Kyrie getting hurt, or I guess even AD getting hurt, they're probably playing in the playoffs, so they get rewarded for that, I guess. Philadelphia continues to just double down on their injury-prone Big and Embiid. Signed one of the worst contracts ever with the Paul George deal. Tanked after everything didn't work. Like, really, again, our front office that doesn't deserve to get rewarded, and they get the third pick. You have the Spurs, who they're a great run front office. I like the Spurs. I like Spurs fans.
But they don't need this pick.
You didn't need it. You didn't need it whatsoever. Got down to them. I'm like, are they going to get Flagg and Wemby? It would have been cool. Like, I understand that perspective, but they're already stacked. You have the best prospect ever besides LeBron. You have the rookie of the year in Stephon Castle. You just got Fox. You have more picks. You have more young players. And like I said, the Hornets, who need it, they deserve it. They get the fourth pick, which is just a huge difference. You're getting like Ace Bailey or whatever at that point. So the Wizards, the Jazz, the Pelicans, teams who haven't won shit
and need help.
They need help desperately right now. They don't really get anything. And then you have teams that had just made the finals, teams that had been in playoffs previous years, and the team with arguably the best future moving forward getting the top 3 picks.
Yeah, I mean, that was the point where I was like, okay, we might need to reform this. And I know everyone's like concerned about tanking, right? You know, that's why we reformed it a couple of years ago. That's why they flattened the odds, because they didn't want to incentivize teams to lose a ton. I know Mike Greenberg went on Get Up on ESPN and he did this big rant where he was talking about like, oh, tanking's a scourge, and I think this was the quote he said. It was, just win games. Well, geez, Greeny, why the fuck didn't we think of that? Jesus Christ.
The new trick helping every NBA team.
Yeah,
just win
this
games.
secret trick NBA teams don't want you to know. Hell, like the Wizards, right? Did they tank this year? Yeah, probably a little bit. But if they played every game like it was game 7 of the NBA Finals, what do we think their record would be? I think they'd win like 25 games. They'd still suck.
Well, I remember we made a video last year because you had the Spurs, you had the Pistons, and the Wizards just all abysmal. It was NBA tanking is out of control. And a decent amount of the comments were like, I don't even know if these teams are tanking. I just think they suck.
Exactly. Exactly. So how do you go about fixing the draft lottery?
Well, you don't.
You have a system where teams are incentivized to lose. I think Adam Silver one time said like, oh, his ideal NBA is one where every team goes into the year thinking they can win the title. That's just not possible. That's not realistic in any sport. Like when you have a system where you have a catch-up mechanic for teams, they're always going to try to exploit that. So the lottery is always going to be flawed no matter what system you have. But just because something's flawed doesn't mean it can't get better. So what are some potential changes? Well, one of them is doing the lottery by cumulative win percentage over the past couple seasons. This is an alternative I've seen kind of geared to curb like the one-year tanks, i.e. Philly this year, the Warriors in 21, or the Spurs in 97. Like, here's the odds from this past season, right? And here's the odds if you did the last 2 seasons pulled together divided by 2. Like, look, you still got Washington, Charlotte, Utah at the top. The Spurs move up a little bit, but Philly, Phoenix, and Dallas all drop down a couple of spots.
Yeah, I mean, this would be way better because, yeah, when you have like these one-off tank jobs, it can really ruin things. Obviously, the Warriors example, like they weren't able to take advantage of that, but imagine if somehow like the Warriors already winning all those titles if they got like Anthony Edwards or something.
Yeah,
like,
or LaMelo Ball.
Yeah, that's like the last thing you need. So I actually would really like this idea. I'd even be fine if you want to like throw in teams that still made the playoffs. Like, why not have the Detroit Pistons in the lottery? They suffered enough, even though they had this great season this year. They kind of deserve it. So I would really like something like this. Yeah, it pushes teams like Philly, you know, Phoenix, Dallas back, the teams that don't really need the picks as much and
or don't deserve them.
Yeah, mainly don't deserve it in my opinion. The teams that need these picks, the teams that deserve these picks at the top. But you know, another example that could work.
Now, another thing you can do is you can increase the percentage for the worst teams. Now, this is actually the way we used to have. From 94 to 2019, the draft lottery odds were weighted far more in favor of the worst teams. The worst team in the NBA had a 25% chance to get the first overall pick. Starting with the 2019 draft, though, the odds were flattened to where the top 3 worst teams now have a 14% chance at the worst overall pick. Again, this was to de-incentivize tanking because, well, there's not as big of a reward for being the worst overall team. But there is still the biggest possible reward award for being one of the 3 worst teams. I understand what they were going for, but again, if you have a better chance to get the best players if you're the worst team in the league,
right,
people are gonna try to be the worst team in the league if they're not making the playoffs. That's just the way things go. This suggestion is not necessarily about bumping odds for those teams up, although I'd be fine if you wanted to bump them up a little bit to give them a better chance. It's more about dampening the odds at the bottom of the draft. Like, yes, Dallas got super lucky this year. They only had a 1.8% chance to win the lottery. They got lucky, right? My question is why they even had a 1.8% chance. Why did they not have like a 0.5% chance? They were 1 win away from being in the playoffs. A 1.8% chance for them to get the #1 overall pick is, in my opinion, way too high.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. We're talking about a team that made the finals the year prior, and then, like you said, this season, 1 win away from being a playoff team, and you have that good of a chance. It's still super low, but it did happen. I completely agree. It should be like 0.5%. At the very least, less than 1. Another one we got to pitch out here, and this would have stopped the Cavs back in the day, because goddamn, limiting top picks you can get in like multiple drafts or like drafts over a 5-year period. The NHL actually has a system kind of like this. You can't win the lottery more than twice in a 5-year period. Additionally, they limit how much teams can move up in the lottery. I mean, I really like a system like this. Again, it gets more like complicated. You know, it might be harder for us fans to follow, but you limit, you know, the trust the process 76ers from tanking every year. Like, once you get the first overall pick a couple times, once you move up more than twice, you're basically done. It's more complicated, but it also just makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, also would have prevented the Spurs from moving up to #2.
That's true.
Because they picked Castle and Wemby in the last 5 drafts, so they wouldn't have been able to move up to #2.
I say, yeah, go off winning percentage of combined years. My take would be the past like 3 seasons. And I'll say it, even if you make the playoffs, if you have one of the worst losing percentages over the past 3 seasons, put them in the lottery. I mean, maybe that wouldn't be fair, but again, I think the Pistons are a great example. Got screwed in past lotteries, had this great season. Why not throw them in there? They've been a bad team. I think they kind of deserve it, but at the very least, you know, I'd like to see it spread across multiple seasons.
I think the cumulative winning percentage for the past 2 seasons is the way to go, because again, that prevents like the 1-year tank, but it also doesn't hurt a team too much if they decide to like blow it up and go young. You only have that 1 season where you're gonna get dragged down by that previous good record, and then you're gonna be back at like the top of the lottery. I also think they could experiment with the you can't move up more than a certain amount of times in a certain amount of years. I think that's a great way to prevent like, yeah, perpetual tanking like the trust the process Sixers. Either way, there's no perfect system out there, but again, when we got teams like Dallas moving all the way up, when we got Philly moving up, to Spurs moving up, seems like there's probably a better way to do this. That's the video, guys. What's your opinion on the best way to do the draft lottery? I'd love to hear what you have to say in the comments down below. If you enjoyed the video, consider leaving it a like, as it really does help us out. And while you're here, why not check out some other videos as well? And don't forget to subscribe to Synthetic Sports.